Numerous UKZN students still lack accommodation or certainty as to whether they'll be placed. This as the tertiary education academic calendar enters its second week. Earlier this week, we saw some students sleep outdoors because the university hadn't confirmed their accommodation. eNCA reporter Nqobile Madlala is following these developments. Let's cross over to her now for the very latest. Good afternoon, Nqobile. What is the situation looking like this hour?
Well, having spoken to SRC Mfundo today, they're saying that they're seeing some of the people being accommodated, but they're waiting to see that everybody will be taken in. But there are still concerns around the fact that there's some people that still need to be registered. They're saying that there's some students that are returning that were waiting for their exams that they had to write and get some points out of that, and those results are supposed to be coming from the institution. And as a result, those students have not started engaging in terms of registration. They do feel that registration will be closing, that means that they will be excluded in the new academic year. A lot of concerns around the fact that there are a number of people that could find themselves without spaces in the university. But more than anything, Fundo, they've just highlighted that they're worried about the sort of security, which we know that from UKZN's statements that we had previously gotten from them responding to the issues in the university, that they said they beefed out security to make sure that their staff are safe. But now at this point, you're hearing from the students saying that they are concerned that very security is now intimidating them. Some of them even talking about the fact that a lot of students have been affected by this in terms of mentally, emotionally as well, and physically. We saw one of the students who says that he was shot in the eye. We currently know that he's saying that he's going to be going to the clinic on Monday. He hasn't had the option of getting out because he's been so scared for so long, as well as the clinic within the campus was closed, he says, and so he is going to be going to a doctor to see just how bad the situation is. But he was just explaining how difficult it is for him to even see at this point, saying that he hasn't even spoken to his family to explain to them what really occurred. And at the same time, we are expecting some of the leaders that were arrested last on Thursday for them to be going to court on Monday. So there's a lot of anxiety around what will happen, and will they get that registration extended for everyone to be able to access it.
And then as far as the SRC is concerned, have they said anything about it now being 2 weeks of the academic calendar? There's clearly a lot of time that is going to be lost now with the court cases and everything else that they're requesting. Are they perhaps talking about possibly getting catch-up lessons for some of those once they've all been registered?
Well, I think at this point they are very concerned, Fundo. I mean, when we were talking to them, they were saying that they feel at this point that their hands are tied. They're not able to walk around campus anyhow because of their high levels of security. And they feel that they're being told, this is alleged, of course, they're being told by the security that if there's a number of them in a group, that means that they have to shoot at them. And this is from 10 going upwards. So in terms of those that needing of that assistance where they can be able to catch up and help each other, that's not possible because they're not allowed together. But at the same time, Fundo, I think the major worry at this point is that they're worried that they will be arrested. They're feeling like, having spoken out about the issues that are taking place in the university, that they are being victimized and they could potentially lose what could be their future. Of course, we've seen 2 of them being arrested. They're still questioning in terms of why they were being arrested. We saw one of them being arrested whilst we were live outside UKZN. We saw them being arrested. So they also worried in terms of who would be next to be arrested. They're still trying to figure out what charges are being brought forward, and they worried that that could potentially be one of the effects. But interestingly, Mfundo, they are in contact with the families of those 2 SRC leaders that are currently arrested, and that also is becoming such a worry for a lot of families, for these 2 families that have had their kids being arrested, because they're worried about what could potentially come of this if they get a record on their name, and this could mean that they can't find a job, or it would be difficult for them to find a job. They were even highlighting that some of their leaders are in honors, and the reason they were actually completing their honors, and they were supposed to be in April graduating graduating, and this could be a really bad dent on what could have been something beautiful. And they feel that they were fighting for something that is right, and they still are wanting that people must get registration and it must be open to everybody. But at this point, they're feeling like they're losing the battle, as they say that the university is not allowing to speak to them, and there's no communication between them besides the part where they have the security that's stopping them every time they try to do something. But let's listen to Songezo.
Been asking for extension of registration, yabo, because we've seen what our students are not being accommodated and they cannot be registered by Mhlaka 20, as they said, yabo. So Tina was saying it must be extended. We've been asked, in fact, we wrote proposals to extend. They only approved to extend for our first years the first instance. Then we then said it must be extended for everyone to a point whereby the Senate then proposed to I extended our postgraduate students, of which Nakon is not accommodative. Then the final say to Nqobile Fair Friday was that if you have parked the registration, you are then allowed to go to, you can register. You have until 10 of March, of which it's in a proposal yet, or the says was that I extend for every student so that everyone will be accommodated.
Nqobile, it seems the relationship between the student representatives and the university is at its worst right now, because I even remember last week when you engaged with some of the SRC members, they were saying that there's even a position that has been taken by some of the staff at the university, calling them instigators, that they're the ones that probably are pushing some of these students to protest. Just talk to us about that relationship currently.
Well, it's very strange. You can already see, Mfundo. I mean, a lot of them feel like they've been told essentially in a way to just shut up, for a lack of a better word. But a lot of them at this point feel like there's not much they can do. I mean, Songezo was explaining to us that as the SRC body, they feel that they're supposed to be able to communicate with management. They were even explaining that the two people that were arrested, they actually had gone out of their residentials, and as they were going out, they were immediately arrested. So they were saying that at this point they feel like there's nothing that they can say. They've sent numerous emails to management, they say, and none of that has been answered. And it doesn't matter how many that they highlight in terms of how many issues they are faced with, but the university at this point is not willing to listen. And some of them are even saying that they just want to help. They want to help them understand the issues that are on the ground, because they do feel that there's a form of exclusion. If you look at the fact that somebody would come as far as Nkandla, some of those areas don't even have computers. Some of the pupils that would come from those schools would struggle to use things like laptops and so on. And so they're saying that they just want to assist them, and if the university can give them a chance to be able to assist. But unfortunately, they feel that there's a breakdown of communication and they're not understanding what they're trying to highlight to them. But of course, if you speak to the university, you will hear, and of course this is previously to what they had told us on their statements, that they feel that the SRC, as well as some of the pupils that were on the university premises, were actually the ones that were throwing stones to the security guard, and they aggravated the situation, and they were really scared because the staff was not safe and everybody that was on campus. So it's a bit worrying, because you can see that there's a definite strain, but that just only means that for anyone who needs assistance, that they're not going to do it, they're not going to get it immediately, because if you're caught between these two, that only means that you're stuck.
Very unfortunate situation. Nqobile, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for that. That was a reporter, Nqobile Madlala. Now, still to